Hello and welcome to Tech Update. Today we will be installing ManageEngine Endpoint Central. However, we won't just install the software and leave it at that. We will also be configuring it exactly as it should be in the most optimal way. Although the installation wizard may seem simple, overlooking hardware, software, or network prerequisites can lead to performance issues and technical glitches down the road. So in this video, we will first cover the essential prerequisites and then proceed with the installation process. Afterwards, we will get familiar with the interface and configure the core settings to ensure it is ready for a production environment. By the end of this video, you won't just be able to install the software with ease, you will also have its critical settings configured correctly. If you're ready, let's get started. Endpoint Central is a unified endpoint management solution. These solutions allow technicians to manage different operating systems or technologies like Windows, Mac, Linux, or even mobile devices from a single console. And also, they have different management types like patch management, configuration management, software deployment management, remote connection management, and so on. So, like other UEM solutions, Endpoint Central has also certain requirements, as you can see. On the left section, the hardware requirements, and on the right section, the software requirements here. Especially the hardware requirements are not the ultimate ones because it depends on the feature list comes from the license, the technician count, and also the endpoint counts. So these requirements are approximately appropriate for the 500 or 1000 endpoints with couple of technicians. The product comes with the PostgreSQL as bundled. But when you reach the 3000 endpoints, I strongly suggest to install MS SQL Server and integrate the database. And also, there are network requirements, as you can see. These requirements are internet access, technician web console access, Active Directory communication, and also mail server communication. But please remember that these are not all network requirements for the Endpoint Central. They are just relevant for this video. But when we install agents, the agents will need specific port requirements. Or when we make mobile device management or image deployment management, these processes, these feature lists will require different ports and access. So when these topics are mentioned later on other videos, I will also talk about these ports as well. Now we can begin installation process. But before continuing, I want to give a couple of hints to make sure your environment is fully ready before the installation part. First of all, I strongly suggest the server should have a static IP address. And also, the regional settings should be the English United States, like this. And finally, the hardware resources should be sufficient according to the dependencies, which I stated before. If you are okay with that, we can download the setup.exe file and start the installation. To make this happen, we are just entering to Google ManageEngine Endpoint Central free trial. The best part is that this free trial allows us to use 30 days without any limitations. So to download it, we should go to the on-premise section. But before that, I strongly suggest to test and use the cloud edition in your environment if you don't have any resources in your net. Also, I personally use the cloud environment free. It is up to 25 computers. So you can easily register your mobile devices, manage your PCs, and so on. It is very generous according to me. So to download the setup.exe, we just click the on-premise and click the download. I will forward this download process, not let you to wait, so we can continue after that. Download is completed. Let's go to the folder and double click it. The installation process is very straightforward. It is just next click installation. And the best part for the ManageEngine products, the installations are very easy and fast. It is a welcome screen. We are clicking next and agreeing to the license agreement. It says the destination folder. In default C program files, I want to make sure we want to install it under directly a folder named ManageEngine. Normally the HTTP port is 8020 and HTTPS port is 8383. You can keep it that way. We are clicking again next and next. After a couple of minutes, it will be installed and we will start the service. We are clicking skip. We don't need to enter details here. And we are clicking finish. After that, the service will be started, and after it will install module, like as you can see. And when you check the services, you will see a couple of services installed, starting with ManageEngine. The UM server is the main service name. It needs to be started. When you want to monitor the starting process, you can go to the C drive, ManageEngine, UM Central server, and there's a folder like logs. And when you go there, type wrapper. So let's open the extension. The wrapper log file. When you go there, you will see these modules which begins to install with a specific time. So when there is a problem in your end, you should check these logs and understand what is the current situation, and if there is any problem, you can see the problem as well. Right now, it is all good, loaded and created notifications, but still it doesn't say it is completely started. It is not dynamic, so we have to close the file and reopen again and click here to bottom. And when you see the server started in and connect to with this specific port, you will understand that it is completely started. Just ignore this port because it is not relevant to our code. As you can see, the HTTP port is 8020. If you want to do it with HTTPS, we can type HTTPS in the beginning and change the port here as 8383. And when we enter it, you should also open the web console. Now we can start with the post-installation configurations. Even if some of them are not mandatory, I strongly suggest check each of them and use or apply according to your needs. Let's sign in the product. The default username and password is admin, and click sign in. After that, there is a welcoming window which directs us to follow what kind of configurations need to be made to use this product. Before jumping these features, we are going to set some configurations in the admin tab with the best practices. So after these configurations, we can jump other modules as well. First of all, we need to be sure the proxy settings should be configured right. Let's click this remind later. The proxy server allows us to dictate how the endpoint central can reach to the internet. So if we are using proxy, or if we directly access to the internet, or if we don't have any access to the internet, we should declare it right away. In our environment, direct connection to internet is appropriate and we can click save. After that, the central server tries to access some of the FQDNs, patches and other stuff and check itself if it can make connection or not. As you can see, there is no problem here, so we can jump to the other settings, which is NAT. Let's go back to the admin section, and under server settings you will see NAT settings. NAT setting is very crucial for our environment because it allows agents to access from a specific FQDN while connecting to the endpoint central. So in this case, our environment will be inside a LAN and not via the internet. What are these? When we say inside the LAN, the agents will connect to the endpoint central from an internal network. But if we have a feature like secure gateway, which allows us to manage endpoints which is not inside the internal network, we can use the via the internet option. But right now we will use inside a LAN and specify an FQDN. This FQDN should be set before distribution of the agents, and in case we need to change the FQDN, there are other steps needs to be done. So it is very important to set the right one. And also there is an A record in the DNS settings which targets to the endpoint central. So let's check the IP address. 192.168.10.12. Let's go back to the Active Directory settings and create an A record. I have a forward lookup zone for it, but as you can see, there is no A record here. So I want to create an A record under gnar.com. So let's right click and click new host. I want to call it epc.gnar.com and give the IP address of the server. Let's check it again. That's correct. Okay. It is also important to note that when we declaring an FQDN, and also if we select the via the internet settings, this FQDN should also be registered under the public DNS. So while the agents are on the outside of the network, they will follow the public DNS record and comes to the server via secure gateway server. We will talk about this secure gateway server and the connections later on, but please keep in mind that you should keep this FQDN reachable from all agents, whether it is in the internal network or not. Since we use the inside the LAN option, the inside DNS configuration will be suffice, and we don't need public DNS configuration. Let's modify here and make it permanent, epc.gnar.com, and save it. It notifies us it will affect the existing communication. Since we don't have any agents right now, we can safely proceed. Okay. So as you can see, after configuring these settings, the software wants us to restart the central server. We will do that, but before that, we will jump to the certificate settings and we will find a certificate aligns with this FQDN. So we can easily allow agents to communicate with endpoint central over an SSL certificate, which is very secure. So let's go back to the admin settings, and under security and privacy, there is manage SSL certificate. So as you can see, the certificate is self-signed by endpoint central. If you are in a test environment, you can easily use this certificate and it renews itself automatically. But in our case, because we want to apply the best practices, we want to upload a new certificate. I suggest that you should use third-party SSL certificates like Global Sign, VeriSign, and so on. But in my case, I created a wildcard certificate from the Active Directory Certificate Authority, so I will use this certificate instead of it. I already created the certificate here, and I will upload it. It should be a prefix, which includes private and public keys. We are clicking browse. And targets this PFX certificate. It asks us what is the password of it. We will type in the password and clicking save. And remember that this certificate should be aligned with the FQDN. It says root certificate required. Root certificate of the uploaded SSL certificate must be present in the trusted store of all endpoints for successful communication. This means that the agents should reach to the endpoint central over this certificate, but to be able to do that, it should trust this certificate. So wherever this root certificate is, also it should be stored under the trusted store, especially trusted root certification authorities section. Since we created this certificate from the Active Directory, we are safe to proceed. We are clicking yes, proceed, and we save it. The issuer is the Active Directory Certificate Authority here, and certificate name and also domain name, as you can see, is a wildcard. So to be able to activate these chains, we need to restart this service. So let's go to the services.msc. Type MA. As you can see, there are a couple of services for ManageEngine, and this is the main service. And let's click restart. The web page seems okay, but let's check it again and confirm that all modules are installed and loaded. Okay, as you can see, it says server started, and let's go back to the UI and login. Before that, I realized that the service is connecting via 8020 port, which is HTTP. Let's check it and see the certificate and also the FQDN is applied correctly. As you can see, the certificate and the FQDN is okay for us. Let's sign in again. Let's close this. Also, it notifies us for security reasons we should be able to enable the HTTPS mode. We will do that right away. But before that, let's close this section and go to the admin tab. In the security settings, we can enable the HTTPS for central server. Let's enable it. We are clicking yes. So the system will restart it by itself. If not, we can do it later on. But for now, we can keep it that way. The next part will be the Active Directory integration. We are clicking the admin, and also from agent settings, we can click domain. We use Active Directory integration generally for three options. One is the technicians, because when we activate the integration, we can add any technicians which can be used from Active Directory. The second part will be the easier agent deployment. So when we integrate the Active Directory, we can easily fetch the computer objects and install the agents over them. And the third option will be the report section. We will cover this report section later on this video. But right now, let's make the integration. It says this is worker domain type, but we will change it to the Active Directory here and then give the respective credentials. This account can be a standard user for the Active Directory, but if you want to deploy agents over this account, it should also an administrator rights for the endpoints. Right now, since this is a test environment, I will just use domain admin account for it. It says the domain name is jinar.local and the domain controller is AD. If you want to enable the communication over SSL, you can enable it like here, and it will use the 636 port. Otherwise, it will use 389 port. We don't need it. Let's continue. It says wrong username and password. Let's check it again. Okay, after that, it asks us how frequently we can sync and fetch the objects from the Active Directory. Once a day is generally suffice, but if you want, you can enable twice a day or every 6 hours. We will keep it that way, and please configure the time zone settings over here according to your location and click Modify Domain. It says the sync status is started, and as you can see, it will update this whenever it completed the sync. While it is started, we can also check this status from the computer section. So when we click the computers and click add computers, as you can see, the sync status also reflected top right of the window. So as you can see, there are some computers we can install agents, but we will not do it in this video. Let's close this. Right now, the AD integration is completed. The other important part is configuring the mail servers. We can do this configuration over admin and then the mail server settings. You can use basic authentication or OAuth authentication according to your environments, but since OAuth is much more secure than basic, I strongly suggest use this option if it is available for you. I don't have any Exchange server or mail server in my environment, so I will just pass it, but it is the generic rules that you can configure, like server name. This is the outgoing server name. The port number, typically it can be 25 or 587. Sender name will be administrator, or you can use ManageEngine according to your needs, or ManageEngine Endpoint Central, for example. The sender will be the one that will send the email to the respective recipients. So you may configure the respective email address in your mail server, and also you may need to configure the relay settings for this server to send email. When you want to test it, you can use the test email address and the security options like email types, SMTP or SMTPS, or enable TLS, yes or no. And if your email server requires authentication, you should also give the respective credential information for the sender email address here. After that, the configuration will be finished and you can test email address settings. The other configuration will be the user password change. As you know, the default username and password is admin. So because this is a critical server, we don't want to give any easy password for this user. So we can go to the admin settings and users section, but on the left section here, you can see the users option and we can click it here. So right now it says the admin. If you want to add user, we can add it and also configure it according to our needs, but it will be passive and it will try to send an email to confirm and register the user on the product. So keep in mind that you should configure your email settings before adding any user here. Right now, we just want to reset our password for the admin user, which is currently logged in. We can do it from the right upper section. It says personalize. When we click the authentications, it allows us to change the password. Right now the current one was admin and I will change it according to my need and clicking save. If you want, we can terminate all web and mobile app sessions, but we don't want it right now. And let's continue. Okay, the new one is set. The other option that we need to configure is page database sync schedule. We will not deploy any patch, but with best practices, we should also configure these settings before deploying anything. So we can go from the threads and patch section and then click the settings and then page database settings. Right now you see that what kind of patch catalogs will be synced to our server. You can select or deselect any of them according to your needs, but our purpose is to enable schedule and give it the appropriate time to begin the sync. So generally I suggest that you should do this out of business hours, so we can type 4 a.m. Let's save it. The other settings will be the inventory schedule. So to be able to get the updated data from the agents for softwares and hardwares, we need to enable the schedules. When we come to the inventory section, we can click schedule scan, and in the first tab, you will see the inventory scan. Let's click the configure schedule. We want to do it as more frequently as we need. The daily is the better one. So let's select a date and time. I generally suggest the early hours of the day. Let's click 9. And also it's so important that your agents should also access to the server. So if we do that out of business hours, because some of the agents will not be active, it will not do this on the respective time. Let's make it 9 a.m. and click save it. There is also file scan option, but it is just a nice to have feature. So I believe when we explain the inventory section here, we can mention with this option as well. But right now it is not too much important. Now it is generally configured and completed, but there are some features that we can make these configurations better. As you may remember, this product comes with the PostgreSQL database as bundle. So this product includes both software and the database. So it is better to take backups. So we can create schedules for the database backups. This is also important for the worst case scenario. So to do that, we can click admin and click the database settings and configure backup details. This should be done out of business hours. So we can specify the date time options here. We can configure the retention policies. How many backups will we keep? We can configure it here. And where we take these backups. To make a best practice, I strongly suggest that take backups to a remote location as specified here. So let's specify the remote location settings here. So to increase the security, you can also specify a backup password like here. When a technician has this backup, it requires to specify a password to complete the process. Otherwise, it will fail. So it's a good practice to specify a backup password here. I'll just specify something here, and also we can set a password hint to remember the password and click save change. Since I haven't configured the mail server settings, it will fail, but in your case I strongly suggest the mail server settings, and after that configure this schedule database backups and save it. Other option will be the maintenance of the server. So Endpoint Central has a feature that keep it in the best performance. To reach the settings, you should go Central Server Maintenance option. As you can see, it is disabled, but I strongly suggest in your production environment because it periodically improves its own performance based on a schedule. So it asks us how often will you do it. So we can easily select every 15 days, for example, like this, and make it Sunday, like 2 a.m. And it will easily make the database maintenance and server optimization. Let's save it. The other option is the audit log settings. Audit log is relevant with the technician's actions, and in default it is very limited. So I strongly suggest to check its retention policy to increase the time. So there's an option like Action Log Viewer. When you click it, you will see that the respective technician, what he or she has done before according to the time value. So when we click the Edit Audit Log settings, it says it keeps this event only 30 days. I believe 30 days for a production environment is very limited. So we should increase it for a year to keep it. Also, you want to get the host name, which can be fetched from the DNS using IP address. We can enable this as well, and let's click apply. The last option is a bit nice to have option is AD report settings. Even if this software is not an Active Directory product, it enables users to fetch many useful AD reports, so we can benefit it easily. To make this happen, we can enable AD report scheduler and select the domains here, and then we can specify the scan mode. I believe update complete object is okay and the right one. So let's configure the frequency. Click the action and modify, and let's get the most updated data from the Active Directory as selecting all days and specifying the time, which is 9 p.m. is okay for us. Let's click schedule and let's click save. So we come to the end of the configuration of the Endpoint Central with the best practice. But before closing it, I just want to summarize what we have done here and why we have done here. So you will get a better idea about how configuring these things. And also, in my opinion, the order of this configuration is very important. So I suggest that keep this order and apply the feasible and appropriate one according to your environment and needs. The first configuration configuration was related with the proxy settings. As you remember, we declared the product how reach to internet. So we click edit and configured it according to our needs. The second configuration was NAT setting under server settings. We specified that it is very important for the agents and it shouldn't be changed later on. So we should give an appropriate one for the agents. So we specified an FQDN in our Active Directory, but if you are using a secure gateway server, you should also specify this FQDN in your public DNS. We just configured it in our Active Directory and we saved it, and also we restarted the server. And after that, we upload a certificate according to this FQDN. We came to the admin section, also clicked Manage SSL Certificate under Security and Privacy, and then uploaded a certificate for this FQDN and restart the server. If you don't want to restart the server twice, you can do these two settings and then restart the servers again. And after SSL configuration, we integrated the product with the Active Directory. To do that, we came to the agent section and then click the domain section and then change the type, or you can add multiple Active Directories if you have in your end from here, and also configure the Active Directory settings here. After that, we came to the admin section and also said we should configure the mail server settings. We talk about basic and OAuth authentications and choose the best one according to your needs. And after that, as you remember, to increase the security, we said that we should change the password of the admin. So to do that, we are clicking here and then personalize. And then under authentication, we specified the old and new passwords here to reset the password. And after password change, we talk about page database and inventory sync settings. We can configure the page database sync settings under page settings and also page database settings. Schedule vulnerability database update. It should also cover the patch settings, and we can specify the time here and appropriate time zone and click save. And for the inventory settings, we are clicking the inventory tab, and then under schedule scan and inventory scan, we can create the schedule options here according to your needs, and we did that. Also, we mentioned that we should take database backups in our environment for the worst case scenarios. To do that, we came to the admin section and under it, the database settings. And we talk about that we should specify the retention, the start time, and also preferably the remote location to keep the backups on another server. We should change it. And also to increase the security, we talk about specifying a backup password here. And after that, we talk about the database maintenance settings, which was crucial to keep the database and software performance optimized. So to do that, we can go to the server settings and also central server maintenance. Here we talk about enabling comprehensive maintenance, which includes both database and the server optimization, and we can specify the start time and the frequency here, and we can click save. And after that, we talk about the log recordings is very limited and we should extend the retention period of this auditing process. So when we come to the audit and action log viewer, on the top right section, we can see that the edit audit log settings. And when we open it, we can specify numbers for days to enable to extend this period. The default was the 30 days and we make this 1 year. And in your case, you can do it for up to 2 years as well. And click apply. And finally, we talk about the Active Directory report settings. It is not a crucial option, but it is nice to have one, because even if this product is not an Active Directory solution, it gives very detailed reports for the Active Directory and we can benefit from it as well. So we enable the Active Directory report scheduler and configure it as update complete object and configure the frequency here and click save. When you go to the report section, you will see that there are many predefined reports under user, computer, group reports, domain reports, organization reports, and so on. So you can get these reports and schedule according to your needs. I believe this is the end of this video. I hope these information will be useful for you. Thank you for watching. See you on the next time. Bye.